What's up everybody, Kier Gomes here, and welcome back. So I'm finally getting caught up on some of the reviews that I've been wanting to do, and I'm hoping that that's going to leave some room for me to start experimenting with some other types of content that I want to start doing on this channel. But I know you guys love deck reviews, and I love reviewing decks, so here we go. Today we're taking a look at the new SVNGALI deck by PANDREA and EDO HUANG, but I'm sure you knew that already. Before we get started, please do drop a like on this video and subscribe if you haven't already. And without further ado, let's roll that intro and get you guys on your way.
Let's go.
You may have noticed that was a new intro. I like to keep the same type of style. It's familiar, but I updated some of the clips. So let me know in the comments if you guys like that new one better than the old one. All right, here we go. So some information on this deck first. This is a new brand, so it's a new line of playing cards. It's separate from House of Playing Cards, it's separate from Knock, it's separate from any of EDO HUANG's projects. The brand is called SVNGALI. Now I know what you're thinking. If you're a magician or if you're familiar with certain magic effects, you might be wondering if this is an actual SVNGALI deck. But I assure you it is not. It is a regular deck of cards, but the brand does reflect the name of a popular magician and a popular type of gimmicked deck. The tuck case is done in matte cardstock. It is a kind of charcoal gray graphite type color. And in red metallic ink on the front, you have the bottom portion of a snake or serpent, with SVNGALI kind of jumbled and scrambled around written on the inside. Very clean looking for the front of the tuck case. It's a very eye-catching tuck case. If you're shopping around online and you see this, you'll probably want to stop and see what the deck looks like. The metallic red snake goes all the way up into the top of the tuck box where it says 01 and has the snake's head. Now the 01 presumably represents that this is the first of multiple editions of this deck, so I'm very excited to see what comes next. One side says concept by PANDREA, designed by EDO HUANG. The other side has the brand of the cards written on it in this nice modern font. The bottom has the website for this brand and some ad copy below. And the back design says 001 Forbidden and has a preview of the back design of the cards and then says SVNGALI Co. Now this deck was printed by the United States Playing Card Company on extremely thin paper stock, so I'm very excited to get into the handling. But before we do that, let's take a look at the cards. Ooh. So this is the back design of the deck. You can see it is a black background with these kind of chalkboard scratches on them, which I think really adds some nice texture to the deck. It has a fairly thin white border. I would say actually it's probably closer to like medium size, like about what you would see on bicycles. It has an obvious one-way back design with the serpent kind of knotted up in the middle, but the head is on top, the tail is on the bottom, making it for an obvious one-way back design, which you are seeing a lot of one-way back designs these days, and I have no problem with one-way back design. Depending on what you're doing, it can actually help you out as a magician to have kind of a built-in magic effect right there. And you can see this red and white stripe that goes behind the snake, which I really like. It adds this layer of contrast. Those are three extreme colors that don't look anything like each other, so it really adds some nice pop to it. You are going to get two jokers with this deck, one of which in black and one of which in red, but that's not the only difference. You'll also notice that the black one says SVNGALI, which is the name of the brand, and then the other one says Forbidden, which is, I guess, the name of the deck. Technically. A red and black jokers, but same-ish design, and I really like these. These kind of remind me of like a David Blaine style joker. Your ace of spades looks like this. It says Forbidden and then has the kind of pronunciation like you would find in a dictionary below it. It's got this watercolored kind of caricature of an apple and has the names of the creators just down below with standard indices. Now, believe it or not, that is not the only power ace in this deck. You also get a ace of hearts that looks like this. So it's got a giant red heart with a golden snake crossing through it and has a very biblical forbidden fruit kind of vibe that's consistent throughout this entire deck, which I love. Okay, so in terms of ad cards and gaff cards, you are gonna get a blank card, which is really good for a lot of different routines, also very common. I like it. And you are also gonna get a double backer, which is not only my favorite gaff card in general. I think it is the most usable. Now, for the most part, the faces are gonna appear to be mostly standard, and that's true, they are mostly standard, but there are some subtle differences, so let's take a look at those right now. You'll notice that this looks like a regular bicycle deck, and that's because a lot of the cards are completely bicycle standard. Some of the changes, though, that you're going to notice just kind of periodically reveal themselves on random cards, seemingly random cards. I don't actually know if they were chosen specifically or if they're random. Your court cards have been swapped out from the traditional light blue, yellow, and red to gold, black, and red, which I think is very consistent with the theme of this deck. And as well, you'll notice that the faces are actually not bicycle standard. They have been completely updated and modernized. Diamonds look about the same until you get to the 4 of diamonds, which has a little excerpt from, I believe this is the Bible. It basically kind of gives some hints to what the deck is about, which is mostly a serpent leading Adam and Eve into the temptation of eating the forbidden fruit. So very biblical, a little bit satanic, very edgy, but I like it a lot. I'm not gonna read it to you, but I'll give you a close-up so you can read it. Pretty awesome idea. I really like that. And then you'll go through and you'll see a lot more standard faces, which again, I'm not complaining. I like that. That's what the diamonds look like. Clubs. Now another little subtlety is like on the King of Hearts, you can see that the King's sword is actually like piercing the heart, which it's only doing that on one side. On this side, it's not doing that. So just these little subtleties that really went into carefully designing this deck of cards, kind of full of Easter eggs. And on the 4 of Hearts, you can see it has this kind of golden chalice on it, which again looks really cool. I don't know why it was just the 4s. There's 2 4s that have something on them, and then the 3 of Hearts says SVNGALI on it. I think it makes for a very interesting deck of cards because it's standard, but it has just that little bit of extra, that little bit of deception, makes it very magical. This is what the cards look like when you fan them. So pretty standard. The red and white does make a little bit of an appearance there in the middle, but ultimately looks pretty standard, which I have no problem with. It still looks great in a fan. Now that's pretty much it for the way this deck looks. Let's switch angles and talk about how it handles. Okay, so in terms of the handling of this deck is printed on crushed bicycle stock, so it is very thin, and you can tell right when you get the deck that the cards are thin. They feel super soft, very springy and flexible. As you can see, I barely have to do anything, and the cards just shoot out. So really thin cards, not a problem for me. I like thick cards, but I also like thin cards. Basically, I just like cards that feel good, so there you go. Now, in a fan, they fan really well. You can see they're nice and smooth, get nice even fans. That red doesn't really make as much of an appearance, though, as you might think, but when you spread the cards, it definitely does. So you can see it's a lot more prominent when you spread the cards. I think this looks really good, not just for pictures, but also, I mean, if you're performing Magic with this deck, that's definitely going to draw some attention towards the design of the cards, but not so much so that it's distracting. If you fan the cards for the indices, it looks like that, so it looks just like fanning a regular bicycle deck, which I have no problem with. I think that looks great. Oh, I could spring these cards all day, though. Here's that new dribble sound. You can hear how thin they are for sure. I know I've said that in the past, but it's definitely true. You can hear the thinness of these cards. I really like that a lot. Let's see how they faro. Seems like the cards faro easiest from top to bottom. I wonder if we do like a giant fan, if the red stripe will look a little bit more prominent. Let's see. Yeah, in a giant fan, definitely the red and white pops out a lot more, and that looks really cool. So there you go. If you want a cool like display during your badass cardistry moves or whatever, that'll definitely do it for you. Ooh. Let's check the snappiness. I suspect, if I'm correct about how thin they are, I suspect they're not going to be very snappy. Might still travel pretty far though, so let's check it out. Ooh, nope, I lied. These cards feel very snappy. You can definitely hear that. I really like that, actually. I mean, thin cards are great, but thin cards that have that kind of sturdy structural fiber in the middle, that's a gift, because then you can use it for a lot of different things, cardistry wise, magic wise. I really like that. Nice. Cards also look cool like in Padiddle or when you spin them. In terms of how the cards look in movement, also no complaints. I really love this contrast of black and white and red. It looks very, very good. I would say that if I had to compare the way this deck feels in the hands to any other deck, it feels a lot like the Knock Color Grades by Alex Pandrea and Art of Play, but it's also going to feel a lot like the Entry playing cards, any of the versions of Entry, with that kind of super thin, crushed stock. Feels really, really good. I really like the way these cards look in movement. Look at that. Ooh, super fresh. Yeah, we like that. Very nice. I'm impressed. So, there you go. Well, guys, thank you so much for watching today's episode and my review of the Forbidden playing cards by SVNGALI. If you're interested in picking up this deck for yourself, I will leave a link below where you can pick them up. I believe this deck was one of only 1,200 ever printed, so if you do want this deck, I would not recommend waiting. I would recommend getting a move on, so links in the bio. As always, guys, please do drop a like on this video if you liked it, and I hope you'll consider subscribing if you aren't for more awesome content just like this. All that being said, I hope everybody has a wonderful rest of their day. I know I will. And I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.